So there was this big trend this morning. Hershey's chocolate bar has launched the Hershey transgender promotional campaign, and it's triggered calls for a boycott. A boycott for which I agree somewhat. I'm not so gung-ho on this one. I really don't care that much that Hershey wants to have a transgender spokesperson. It's not that, it's whatever. But it is, everything aside, you got to admit how clever it is that her/she as pronouns is very clever. Good job, Hershey's. But conservatives are now saying we're not going to buy their products if this is the kind of stuff they're going to support. And I completely agree with that sentiment. I don't care as much, but I agree that conservatives should be doing it if this is what they believe in. Now, the Krasensteins, we've had them on the show, they're liberal pontificators, say the Hershey's boycott shows that cancel culture from the right is much worse than from the left. We compare the differences between the two sides, and it's sick. Yeah, it's a grift. You know, just so much of politics and cultural politics is just fake for the sake of outrage, and most people probably don't care. I have to wonder about the Krasensteins if their audience is actually a bunch of liberals or actually a bunch of conservatives. And their game is to say things that will offend conservatives so conservatives read because liberals actually don't care. But there is a boycott underway. Let's read the news and talk about what's going on with Hershey and why I think it is important. If you believe in something right now, if you disagree with the transgender ideology and the sex changes for kids and all that stuff, you need to boycott any and all companies that are promoting it. Here's the story from the New York Post. Boycott threatened over transgender inclusion in Hershey's Women's Day promo. Oh boy, women. Cancel culture watchdogs want to Hershey's kiss the iconic chocolate maker goodbye. Ha 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 ha, New York Post, always with the puns. Incensed social media critics are threatening to boycott Hershey's after the brand featured a transgender woman in an ad campaign for International Women's Day 2023. The chocolate meltdown came to light after the Pennsylvania-based candy company brought back its she bar, known as Her in Canada, in an effort to celebrate the women changing the future, except they decided to use a biological male. The wrapper features the faces, that was me by the way, that wasn't in the article. The wrapper features the faces of 5 women who were selected to be part of the cacao-fueled empowerment campaign. One of the featured candy promoters is Faye Johnstone, a Canadian transgender rights activist, who celebrated her selection on Twitter. The chocolate's out of the wrapper. Johnstone, 24, gushed, honored to be featured in this campaign by Hershey's Canada for International Women's Day, alongside 4 brilliant sisters and changemakers. You know, I've evolved my opinion a little bit on the trans issue. For the most part, I'm more so leaning against treatments for people who, in any capacity, who are under the age of 18. And I disagree with the treatment protocol for people over the age of 18, but I'm not in favor of banning it outright. So my view is basically this. If somebody is suffering from some kind of mental disorder or distress or circumstance that's resulting in them threatening self-harm, yet we don't just amputate or give, chemical procedures. We just watch them, and just make sure they don't hurt themselves, or you get therapy and things like that. I think what we're seeing here is very, very strange in that there are a plethora of mental disorders resulting in distress and self-harm, but only one of them do we affirm. It makes me question the affirmation process, but let's read more. It also means a lot to be included. As a youngish trans woman, she added, I grew up with few trans role models. Many young trans folks haven't met a trans adult. I hope this campaign shows trans girls they can dream big and change the world too. Needless to say, Johnstone's inclusion prompted digital torches and pitchforks, with Twitter critics calling that an insult to real women. Hershey's is honoring women by featuring delusional, disfigured men on its candy bars. Feel empowered yet, ladies, scoffed Federalist CEO Sean Davis. In Shakespeare's day, women weren't allowed on stage and were played by men, argued teacher Carrie Kellerman. Are we going back to that? How is this progress? What? Wow. Men are better at everything, even being women, snarked political commentator Jim Teacher. More power to Hershey's if they want biological males to represent women. I really don't care, but I'm not going to buy a Hershey's bar. I got a controversial take for this one. If you oppose the transgender ideology and you do not want this stuff in front of your kids, don't buy their products. And I'm now going to come out and say something that will be shocking. And I know I'm going to get a lot of leftists who are really mad at me when I say this, but Stop eating garbage sugar. Hershey's, you should have stopped eating it a long time ago. There's no reason to eat that garbage. It's not even chocolate. Hershey's, your product is trash. Now, that being said, it is delicious. That I understand. But if you want to be a responsible human being, understand that it's not always about just eating candy and enjoying yourself. It's about sometimes making the right decision for yourself, knowing that candy's bad for you. The other day, I enjoyed a fine frozen yogurt, which I believe had chocolate on it. It did have chocolate. I don't think it was Hershey's, though. But I did those cookie dough balls. Oh, man, it was so great. And I don't do it all that often. I don't have sugary nonsense. You're allowed to have sugary nonsense. In fact, for the most part, you can eat nothing but sugary nonsense if you want. I'm just saying, if you want to be responsible, you recognize that sometimes it's okay to have dessert. Dessert's fine, but everything in moderation. My point here is you probably shouldn't be eating Hershey's bars anyway because it's garbage. If you have it every so often, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your lives, but they're gonna get mad at me saying that I'm like food shaming people or something like that. Before we even get to any concept of boycott, because they put a trans woman on their candy bar, I'm going to come out right now and just be like, don't eat fake chocolate sugar garbage with hydrogenated oil crap in it. That being said, we got a bunch of protein bars here. We have a bunch of snacks and drinks and everything for our guests and for our employees. And for a while, we actually were doing these heavily processed, keto bars. And they taste pretty good. But, then we had people say like, hey, man, you're probably better off eating a date than you are eating whatever the hell that word is. And I was like, that's actually a good point. Not all sugar is bad for you. You don't want to eat too much of it. But what we're focusing on now here is higher protein, lower carbs, but more natural everything. So a lot of the stuff that we do have is meat jerky bars, like the protein bars we have now. We get those epic bars. And I can't order enough of them because everybody just annihilates them. They're delicious. It's like the ingredients for like the bacon one is like, it's like bacon, salt, garlic. Now that's a protein bar right there. And you don't got to eat the sugary garbage. But here's the funny thing. The Krasensteins write that cancel culture from the right is much worse than the left. That's probably bait. I think that they're probably writing articles for me to read and for you to read because the left probably doesn't care. Making some sophist argument about why cancel culture on the right is worse than the left. Yeah, it's not. Like, dude. The left got a guy, a NASCAR racer, his sponsors dropped him because his dad in the 80s said a racial slur. Like in the 80s, like 40 years ago, his dad said something and they're like, we're stripping you of your sponsors because something your dad did. That's very weird. Very weird indeed. But they basically say upon release of the video, there was a boycott, blah, blah, blah. In recent years, Democrats have been at the forefront of the movement to boycott or cancel companies and individuals who engage in racist, hateful, or bigoted behavior. This approach is rooted in a commitment to social justice and equality and seeks to hold people and organizations accountable for their actions. Okay, full stop. I'm going to tell you why I'm completely in favor of this boycott. I oppose bigotry and I want social justice. And it is not social justice to affirm the mental distress of an individual in only one circumstance. So I would say this, either you have to affirm anorexia, affirm morbid obesity. Well, they are affirming morbid obesity, but affirm people who are body dysmorphic, transracial, trans species. All of that would need to be affirmed because the criteria is rather similar. Someone experiencing distress over their identity and they want their identity affirmed, but you're only choosing one circumstance. Well, that sounds bigoted and hateful. So I'm over here. I want to have a candy bar, minding my own business. But Hershey's, they won't put any furries on their candy bars. Why not? Why affirm only one group's identity? Why are you discriminating against the fursona women? Maybe there's some like 350-pound morbidly obese man who identifies as a female rabbit that you could put on your candy bar as well. And you think I'm joking. Why are they only choosing one thing to affirm? Why are they ignoring all of the other groups? That sounds bigoted to me, right? So you can't have it both ways, right? Ultimately, what I think in the long run is you've got to start boycotting things that go against your values, and that's simply it. So, the Public Square app is really awesome because it shows you businesses that agree with American values, and you can shop there and you want to support them. If Hershey wants to have a transgender person promoting their women's candy bar, I really don't care. I just won't eat it. And I won't eat it for the main reason that it's garbage and it's bad for you. Granted, like a couple months ago, I went to Hershey Park and we got a whole bunch of Hershey candy. I just won't do that again. I don't care, Hershey. You can do whatever you want. You just can't have money from me. I'll tell you what. Here's what we need to do. Can we get like a non-woke chocolate company? And I got to be honest, too. You need to go the other direction. You need to go heavier with it, guys. You want to boycott Hershey? That's fine. But you got to actually one-up it. You got to go. We need like a Bible-thumping Christian brand. Well, actually, that probably won't work. What you got to do is you got to make a chocolate company and then randomly and abruptly start talking about how the Lord bringeth chocolate and then have like priests on your candy bar. Can we? I'm half kidding. You can't just say no to this. There has to be an alternative because people are going to be like, don't know, don't care. I'm going to eat a candy bar. Me, I would just advise everybody to not eat it because it's garbage, but sure, whatever. I'll leave this one there. The next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see y'all then.